the New York Times has actually demoted one of their Washington editors. We're talking about Jonathan Weissman. And we told you all about Weissman and his antics online right here on TYT. But just in case, here's a refresher, because Weissman has actually been under fire for tweets questioning whether Reps Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar actually represented the Midwest and whether Reps Doggett and John Lewis represented the Deep South, given that their districts are primarily urban and theirs and heavily minority, the last two there. Also, you may remember that he told author Roxane Gay that she owed him an apology after she criticized him for writing a tweet pointing out that a congresswoman was black while not mentioning that her primary challenger was also black. And a Times spokeswoman, Eileen Murphy, said Weissman had apologized to executive editor Dean Backward for his recent serious lapses in judgment, but that he has been demoted and will no longer edit the newspaper's coverage of Congress. The Times didn't specify what his duties will be, but they also said he would no longer be active on social media. So his posts were really, really racist, and he still works for the Times.
Yeah,
that's where we go.
Look, I think there's two issues here. Okay. So we covered the racial angle last time around. The Just Democratic candidate is Morgan Harper, and you should check her out. She's wonderful, totally uncorrupted, and he attacked her. He seemed to imply that she was racist, and then when she pointed out that she was black, he said something along the lines of, "If you say so, I saw the picture." What? Okay, so that's both certainly potentially racist, while pretending to be concerned about racism, and super weird and disrespectful. But on top of that, there's another issue here, which is his disdain for progressives overall. His Twitter at that point, I went on it that day when we were covering the story, was almost all against Justice Democrats. Wait, you're not in the, even if you're in the Democratic Party, you're supposed to pretend to be neutral, but of course they hate the Justice Democrats because they challenge incumbents and they love their beloved incumbents and the powerful and the elite, etc. So if you were in the Democratic Party, it would be annoying, but I would understand it, right? But you're not, you're a editor at the New York Times covering Washington. So why are you attacking challengers of incumbents and trying to protect the powerful? What a weird thing you decided to take on as a duty while being the deputy editor of the New York Times in Washington covering these elections. So I guess I'm glad he's reassigned, if we're gonna leave it at that. And they're like, don't go on social media so people won't know from now on what you really think. But I love that he went on social media. Otherwise, he would still have that job, and while pretending to be neutral and objective, he would write things that I'm positive, as he has done in the past, that would, with great disdain towards Justice Democrats, uncorrupted candidates, ones that don't take big corporate money, and write glowing pieces about, oh, these corporate Democrats are so wonderful. I mean, I didn't say wonderful because I'm objective. I'm just saying they have a lot of power that they could wield on behalf of their citizens, and voters, etc. But all these radicals trying to come in here and not take corporate PAC money. What's wrong with them? I don't even believe they're black. So I'm glad he went on social media so we could actually know what the hell he's about.
I mean, there's only one person who gets to write really offensive tweets and keep their job, and we know who that is.
Oh, right.
So.
But look, one more important thing about this, executive editor Dean Baquet did a town hall for his reporters, and they talked about the Weissman tweets, Weissman situation overall, and they talked about the headline that got a lot of controversy recently about the Trump speech, where it seemed like Trump was fighting against racism when obviously he's doing no such thing. But I hope that they're not treating it as one-offs, and I'm worried that they are, like, oh, bad guy, telling people what he actually thinks on social media. Shh, remember, we're all objective, right? And I hope and I don't know the details of the meeting, so that's why I'm saying I hope they talked about the systemic problem at the New York Times. Because the New York Times does wonderful stories. I got a New York Times reporter coming on in the third hour of the Young Turks, incredible investigation. And I love that kind of free press that challenges the powerful, etc. But their political reporters overall love the establishment and the status quo. And then they have the temerity to tell us, no, we're objective. So when we tell you that Bernie Sanders is radical and Elizabeth Warren's plans are undoable, but that Klobuchar and the other candidates and all of the incumbents are wonderful and pragmatic and realistic. And we use words like pragmatic, realistic, reasonable, etc. No, because our perspective is the perspective you should all have. And that to me is the worst bias you could possibly have. Did they really address that? I'd be really surprised because it's all over their paper. Well, hey, you made it this far. You must really like the Young Turks. Thank you, we really appreciate you. Now, another easy way to keep supporting us also helps keep your internet activities and data private, all with a push of the NordVPN app. Head to nordvpn.com/TYT right now for 75% off of your next 3 years.